Hello and welcome to Canvas, the Niger Delta Roundtable, where I discuss the future of the Niger Delta region, blessed with hydrocarbon and other resources. Every week we give some time to reflecting on topics relevant to the development of the Niger Delta region, and today is no exception. Now, we're focusing once again on how to take the Niger Delta region to a more promising future. Just a reminder that the program is sponsored by the operator of the NNPC SPDC Total Energies Active Joint Venture, the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria Limited, headquartered here in Port Harcourt. Thank you for joining. I'm Adedayo Elushakin. Now, on this edition of Canvas the Niger Delta Roundtable, we're focusing on the topic Empowering the Future, Nigeria's HPV vaccination drive in the Niger Delta. We turn our focus to a monumental health initiative taking place in our very own Nigeria. In an unprecedented move, Nigeria has launched a campaign to vaccinate girls in the Niger Delta against the Human Papillomavirus, commonly known as HPV. Now, this virus is leading cause of cervical cancer, a disease that has claimed too many lives too soon. In what is the largest campaign of its kind in the African region, this initiative aims to reach 7.7 million girls, providing them with a shield against HPV and paving the way for a healthier future. Now, this is a story of hope, of empowerment, and of a nation taking a stand against cervical cancer. So stay with us as we delve into this significant initiative, explore the science behind the HPV vaccine, and hear from one of the experts helping to make this possible. Together we can arm our girls, our future, with the knowledge and tools to live healthier lives. Again, we're considering on Canvas on this edition, Empowering the Future, Nigeria's HPV vaccination drive in the Niger Delta. And my guest is Dr. Diana Babel. Dr. Diana Babel is a medical doctor working with the Rivers State government and currently serving in the capacity of the state's health educator at the Rivers State Primary Healthcare Management Board. Dr. Diana Babel, you're welcome to Canvas Honor.
Thank you very much, Dio. It's good to be here.
It's great to have you on the show. I know you're a very busy person, but thank you for making our time to discuss this all-important matter.
Thank you, too.
And let's get right to it then. And I think a good place to start the conversation is understanding what HPV is and what its connection is to cervical cancer.
Okay, thank you very much. Like you had said, the country is actually rolling out a vaccine against human papillomavirus, which is HPV. HPV is an abbreviation for human papillomavirus, and it's a sexually transmitted virus, and it's a very common virus that can be contracted by anyone that is sexually exposed. And like you had said, is the leading cause of cervical cancer in women. And cervical cancer happens to be the second most common cancer in women. Breast cancer is the first all over. And it takes a lot of lives, like you had initially said. The statistics is 12,000 women annually in the country are diagnosed with cervical cancer, and 8,000 would die. So if you take account, every day 21 women will fall from cervical cancer.
However, you talked about the spread earlier on. You said through sexual encounters. Is that the only way that cervical cancer is spread?
Oh yes, unprotected sexual exposure is the very forefront way. But you know that the virus stays in mucosa. Mucosa meaning the mouth, the vagina, the penile area, the anal area. So depending on which organ an individual has sex with, the virus can stay in any of those areas. So direct skin to skin contacts. So it must not be penetrative sex, because there's also non-penetrative sex. So direct skin to skin contacts where there's exposure between the mucosa of an infected person and a non-infected person can actually expose the non-infected to having the virus. And so just to say that it's not only cancers that the HPV virus causes, it causes warts. So warts can happen on any part of our body as well. You can have genital warts, you can have oral warts, you can have anal warts. So the virus is just not known for cancer alone. So skin-to-skin exposure is one of the ways that someone can contract the virus.
So HPV leads to cervical cancer and some other diseases as well. Um, and if it's spread by sexual encounter, now a lot of sexual encounters are between a male and a female individual. So why aren't we concerned, or what does it seem we're not concerned about HPV as regards the male exactly? Why is the focus, the emphasis on females?
Okay, now HPV can cause cancer, like I said, oral cancers, anal cancers, cervical cancers, vaginal cancers, vulvar cancers, penile cancers. But these other ones are rare. A penile cancer is rare in my practice. It's very rare to see a man with penile cancer, but it's very common to see a woman with cervical cancer. So we're looking at where is the disease burden amongst the folks that are having sexual exposure to each other, unprotected sex. The disease burden is in the women. Even though we say that the men are the ones that are carriers and pass it on to the women. But eventually, when you look at who comes down with cancer, it's mostly the women folk. So in as much as we are not relegating the men to the background, we are saying that let's prioritize where the disease burden is and fight our fight from there.
Now, you gave some data earlier on. You said countrywide, we have about 12,000, pardon me, who are likely to contract
diagnosed
with HPV annually.
Yes, cervical cancer.
Oh, not just HPV, but
HPV,
cervical cancer.
Yes.
Of that figure, 8,000 are expected to die.
Yes.
How about in the Niger Delta? What is the prevalence rate of cervical cancer in the Niger Delta region?
Okay, these statistics are quoted to you at WHO for the country. There are no specific data to Niger Delta per se, but most recently in my research, I've looked at, there's a study done, still 2020, by some group of persons in Niger Delta that had said 25 out of 10,000 women will have cervical cancer, so still translating to that amount, but let's just stick with the WHO figure for the country as a whole. In our country, we don't do a lot of specific to an area research. So we just take a global or a national figure or statistics for our counts. So let's stay with 8,000 women die, 12,000 diagnosed, and 21 every day will fall from cervical cancer.
Now, speaking of national figures, Nigeria has a population of about 200 million. And whilst, I'm not trying to be insensitive here, but those numbers, 12,000 annually, 8,000 possibly passing away from it, from a population of 200 million, for some persons, it may not seem like that very much of a big deal.
Yes, I agree with you. It seems infinitesimal, but if that 8,000 is my only daughter and she comes down with cervical cancer and dies from cervical cancer, that's 100% mortality to my family. So in as much as it doesn't seem so large a figure in the pool of Nigerians we have, it is important. It is important to us that we don't want to increase the figures. These figures were in 2020, we are in 2024, and we'll still have research going on, and we'll still find women diagnosed of cancer. So the figures are adding up. We don't want that my one daughter, that is just my only one, to die from cervical cancer and I have 100% mortality. With regards to the woman who has 5 daughters and just has one having cancer and dies, she has 4 remaining. I have none. So it is important, even if it is one person. Like I tell people wherever I go and speak, I said, these are not numbers, they are human beings. Every one person is important. Every one person is important.
So the HPV, the papillomavirus, leads to different cancers, cervical cancer inclusive, which is, according to you, once again, the second largest,
the second most common
cancers in women.
Yes, sir.
Let's backtrack a bit. What are cancers, and cervical cancer specifically also?
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go back to our biology, where they said the smallest unit of life is the cell. And the way God designed our bodies, our cells divide in an orderly manner. So we don't have monsters on the road. If it divided haphazardly, you find people with 2 heads, probably 2 eyes, 4 eyes, 2 nose, 10 toes, 20 toes. No, that's not how God made it. So our body has cells that divide in an orderly manner, and cells regenerate over time in an orderly manner. When something happens to a cell and that cell has a mind of its own, in quotes, it begins to divide haphazardly, begins to create masses in our bodies. Those masses can be harmless, in which we say they are benign tumors, or the masses can be harmful, in which we say they are malignant tumors. And when it's a malignant tumor, it's a cancer. So when cells divide in a haphazard way and it's harmful to our bodies, we have a cancer in our hand. Let's go to the cervix. You know that the cervix is part of the womb, and only a woman has a womb. Men don't have wombs. The womb has 3 parts. It has a body, it has a neck, and it has a mouth. The mouth is what leads and connects the body of the womb to the outer part, which is the vagina. So now, that mouth is what we call the cervix. If we have cells that begin to divide haphazardly in that cervix, causing a cancer in that area, we now have what we term cervical cancer.
Unfortunately, we do have those numbers, and like you mentioned a while ago, sad as it may seem, it is quite likely that we will diagnose other women today or tomorrow,
yes,
who have come down with cervical cancer, yes, but we do understand that the HPV leads to or causes cervical cancer.
Yes.
Now, sadly, if a person is diagnosed, or a woman is diagnosed with HPV, what treatment is available?
Okay, so now we have measures in place. We are advocating that once a woman is 35, she should go for what we call cervical cancer screening. There are various types. There are more specific types that we can diagnose the HPV virus. Then there are other general types where we just see something happening in the cervix, changes that are happening. So what we can do for that woman that we see that there are changes happening in the cervix, we can just take out a part of that cervix. Once you take out that part, you can stop the progression of the changes into cancer. A woman does not just come down with cervical cancer. She goes from being infected with the virus, retaining that virus in her cervix, a persistent infection with that virus. Changes begin to happen slowly in her cervix. Those changes are pre-cancer changes, and then she comes up with an advanced cancer. So it takes a while. From our findings, it takes about 20 years from when a woman contracts the virus to when she becomes full-blown cancer. So if she's checking her cervix regularly, from 35 years, like I've said, we can find something wrong and treat it on the spot. So there's no specific treatment for HPV virus as it is. In science or in medicine, we know that all viruses burn themselves out in the human body. So the body has a way of recognizing it and fighting, and then you heal from it. All viruses burn themselves out. But the woman who will retain the virus and have a persistent infection with it is the one that will come down with cervical cancer. So no, there's no specific treatment for HPV as it states. But if we see a woman with cervical cancer or in a stage of cancer or pre-cancer stage, we can treat.
So a woman can have the HPV but not have cancer?
True.
Okay. Now, also, since you say that HPV is transmitted through sexual activity, can one say then, even though not all sexual activity is between a male and a female, but if HPV leads to cancers more in females than it does, in males, are males then carriers of HPV?
Exactly. We have said and settled it in medicine that the male are the carriers of the virus. Yes, so they give it to the females. And it's possible that a woman can give it back to another man, So, sexual exposure is such that you give to and collect from. So there's just exchange going on. So if an infected male meets an uninfected woman, she contracts from him. She meets another uninfected male, she gives to that one. So the circle continues. In as much as we are having unprotected sex in our society, the circle continues.
So how is it that in females, HPV leads to cervical cancer or other forms of cancer, but the male can be a carrier of HPV and not come down with any cancer?
He can have penile cancer, but penile cancer is rare.
once again, that takes us back to my question.
Yes.
How is it that a male has the HPV and doesn't, and in most cases, doesn't come down with any cancer?
Okay, so let me explain this. The cells in the cervix are, in quotes, very unstable. So they can be pushed. Like I said, our bodies are organized in a way that the cells divide in an orderly manner. So the cells of the cervix can be pushed quickly into having a mind of their own and dividing haphazardly. Not so with the cells around the penile area. So for the men, they have a more stable mucosa that covers their organ. But for us, our cervical cells have a way of, they're unstable. So any little thing can push that woman's cervical cells to divide in a way it ought not to divide and push her into cancer. And we have said the most commonest thing that does that is the HPV. Remember, 95% of cervical cancer is caused by HPV. There's another 5% caused by other things. So we're not just saying it's all about HPV and cervical cancer. No, there are other things that can push that cervical cells into cancer. Not just HPV, but the commonest one is HPV. That's why we're all about HPV.
So obviously, it's better to not even contract HPV at all.
It's rather impossible not to contract it so long as we are alive and we are well. Sexual exposure keeps going on. People will keep passing it on. People recover from it. People will come down with cancer from it. So if you say don't catch it at all, that means the person was never sexually exposed at all.
So are you saying that sexually exposed persons are very likely to contract HPV at some point?
In as much as, I say it boldly anyway, in as much as you have been sexually exposed at any point in your life, you would have contracted HPV. It's a very common virus. You could have contracted it and recovered from it because people can recover from it. Yes. But the person who keeps it in her system and it continues there and she has another one upon it and another one upon it is that woman that may likely come down with cervical cancer.
What then is the role or the place of the HPV vaccine in all of this?
Good. So now, how vaccines work or how our bodies develop immunity, in quotes. 2 ways. I come in contact with an organism, I fall sick, I battle it in my body, I recover from it. My body now has memory of that particular organism so that when it meets it again, 2 years, 3 years down the line, I fight better. That's one way I can get immunity against any organism. The second way is some persons in the lab will take that particular organism, take from it, modify it, make it look beautiful, put it in a substance called the vaccine, and introduce it to the human body. In that way, I have not contracted the illness, but I have a part of the organism that my body can recognize and fight. Once it does that fight, the body has memory again. When it meets the HPV, it can quickly fight and the body can recover quickly from HPV. So we're not saying that this vaccine now that we have, what it does, it makes our bodies as women to have the ability to recover faster from the infection than a woman who was not particularly vaccinated or who has not been exposed to the virus prior. So that's the whole HPV vaccine drive. We want to give our bodies the chances to respond faster and quicker to recover from the virus when the body meets it.
Oh, this sounds like just about every other vaccine that there is out there.
Exactly. That's how vaccines work. BCG vaccine, oral polio vaccine, measles vaccines. That's just how it works. It gives your body the ability to fight better when it meets the actual organism.
Now, since both genders are carriers of the HPV, and even though women suffer from it more than males do because they come down with cervical cancer, possibly other cancers for that matter. But we've established that both genders can and do carry HPV. Should or do males need the HPV vaccine as well?
Yes, both genders actually need the HPV vaccines. In countries that have the funding and resources to cater for vaccines for both sexes, you find out that in those countries, both boys and girls in the age range of 9 to 14 are given the vaccine. But in our country where we don't have the resources to purchase the vaccines to cover for both boys and girls, we looked at who has the disease burden. Women. That is why we have channeled our vaccine drive towards women, young girls, 9 to 14 years. That's where our target audience or our target group is. So to answer you, yes, everybody should have the vaccine, male and female. They should in places where there are resources to cover for it. Why not?
It is Canvas at the Niger Delta Roundtable, brought to you by SPDC and her JV partners. We're discussing guaranteeing and showing our future via an HPV vaccine drive that's currently running throughout the country and even here, especially in the Niger Delta region as well. My guest is Dr. Diane Babel. We have to go on the break now. We'll return and the conversation will continue. Do please stay with us.
Yellow and black markers indicate pipeline and flow line right-of-way boundaries. Your activity could impact on the buried high-pressure hydrocarbon pipelines and flow lines, leading to possible leaks and explosion. Please keep off. Do not engage in sand mining or any form of excavation, pipeline vandalism, oil theft and bush burning within pipeline and flow line right-of-way. Do not farm, trade or locate any business on pipeline and flow line right-of-way. It is against the law to apportion land, sell, or build on pipeline and flow line right-of-way. Maintain a setback distance of at least 30 meters or about 100 feet from the right-of-way boundaries always. We care for your safety and that of the environment.
This message is brought to you by the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria Limited, SPDC, operator of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited, Total Energies and Ajib Joint Venture.
And you're welcome back. Canvas, the Niger Delta Roundtable is the program. I'm Dio. Of course, it's brought to you by SPDC and her JV partners. Today we are on this edition. We're considering ensuring guaranteeing our future via protecting our girls against the human papillomavirus via an HPV vaccination drive that's currently sweeping the entire country and even especially here in the Niger Delta as well. My guest is the state health educator here in Rivers State, Dr. Diane Babel. You're welcome once again.
Thank you very much, sir.
So as I mentioned earlier on, in the earlier part, in the first part of our conversation and even in the reintroduction as well, we have reportedly Nigeria has an HPV vaccination drive sweeping the entire country. Can you elaborate on that, please? Okay,
so congratulations to our country. 37 states have actually introduced the HPV vaccine into our expanded program for immunization schedule for children. Prior to now, we have a green card, we call it the Road to Health card, where when you take your child to the health center, they give you vaccine and they chat it. Before this time, that card ended at 1 year and 3 months with measles vaccine. And then after this whole campaign launch, we now have that card ending at 9 years. So what we're saying is that after May 27th, which was the second phase states launch of the vaccine, the first phase launched, 16 states launched in October last year. The second phase states, 21 states.
Last year, you mean
2023, yes, 2023, yes. The second phase states, 21 states, have launched the HPV vaccine into our public system, public health facilities in May 27th. So it's a strategic date. Children's Day was when we actually put the vaccine in all public health facilities so that our girls can actually access it. The vaccine is not new. The vaccine has been in the private space for ages. People had to pay a lot of money for it, as much as 50,000, 60,000 to get girls vaccinated. So what the government is saying is, together with the global drive to eliminate, not just control cervical cancer, eliminate cervical cancer from our world, we as a country want to embrace that global drive. And we have successfully rolled out the vaccine into all our public health centers. So if you walk into any health center after May 27th, which was the launch, you can get your girl 9 years old to 14 years vaccinated with HPV vaccine.
Now you talk about eliminating HPV,
yes.
And I guess the ultimate goal is to eliminate cervical cancer.
Exactly.
can a virus and consequently the disease it causes, can it be eliminated completely?
Sure. One example is smallpox. We don't have smallpox in our world again. The only place you can find smallpox is in the biolab, where they can use it for weapons of war. So yes, you can completely eliminate a particular organism from our world. If everybody works together with every strategy that's on ground, we can actually put a halt to cervical cancer caused by HPV in the country and in the globe.
So if that's possible, then as you say it is, why haven't we, or why can't we just eliminate every virus or every bacteria or even every disease or ailment for that
matter?
Like
I said, we have to work together. Even in this vaccine drive, we have people that are refusing to take the vaccine. As simple as oral polio, people refuse to give their children oral polio vaccine. And if we don't work together, we cannot achieve success. The success does not lie with the scientists or people making vaccines or people taking the vaccines to homes. No, it lies with every one of us to understand why we are doing what we are doing, buy into it, and embrace it and accept it and have it as part of our culture or part of our regimen. The success is not just on our part as doctors or public health physicians. No, the populace have to play a part in it as well.
Oh, this HPV vaccination drive that's sweeping across the country, how does it affect the Niger Delta specifically?
Oh yes, what it means for us is that, like I had quoted one statistics of 25 out of 10,000 women, there was a study done in Niger Delta. What it means is that the numbers of women that will have cervical cancer in the Niger Delta will drop. It means that women can function better. Women are really the bedrock of families, they are the bedrock of homes, they're the bedrock of nations. So if you, like you said, empowering the women, if you empower her by keeping her healthy, we have a healthier Niger Delta. We have women that can function better. We have women that can be available for their children to nurture and bring up children and have a better Niger Delta. So I think it's a win-win for us on this side of Niger Delta. It's a win-win for us as a federation as well.
Now, it's targeted, I couldn't help but also note that you mentioned it's targeted at girls ages 9 to 14, am I right?
You are very correct, sir.
Why was that age range chosen?
Okay, remember I had said that you contract the virus by being sexually exposed. And statistics have shown that the average age for anybody to become sexually exposed is 15 years. And we are looking at a situation where we can quickly give a girl who has not been sexually exposed the vaccine so that her body develops immunity and can fight better because she will become sexually exposed one day, and can fight better when she becomes sexually exposed. So that's the idea. We are also advocating that women should screen and be vaccinated. So for that woman who is 35 and has screened and is said to be negative and needs the vaccine, she needs to purchase the vaccine. She will not get it free of charge in our health centers because we don't have the resources to cover for every woman from 9 and above. So we are right now staying with the age range 9 to 14, one, because of resources, two, because we have seen that it is more effective to cover that age group of individuals so that when they get sexually active, they can fight better and be protected from cervical cancer.
Now, you mentioned that for women who are above ages 14, they would have to get screened first, and if the result is negative, then they can get the vaccine.
Yeah, correct, sir.
How about in the unfortunate scenario where a woman does test positive for HPV? What is the next course of action? Okay,
so when you test positive, you actually look at the cervix to be sure that no changes are happening. I've said that you can look at it, see, and treat on the spot. So that's why we're advocating regular screening for women when they are 35 and above. So at 35, you screen. 5 years after, you screen again. If you are HIV positive, you screen more because they have more tendency to come down with HPV and cervical cancer. So we're advocating when you're 35, you screen. 5 years after, you screen again. You keep screening like that. Regular screening. Like I said, the cervical cells are unstable. So anything can tilt them to start having a mind of their own. So we want to catch it early and stop it early if it is ever there.
What is the potential impact of this on the Niger Delta? I know that this might also have larger impact, of course, throughout the entire country, but potential impact on the Niger Delta, this initiative that is.
We have healthier women. Like I said, cervical cancer is the second most common cancer in women. So we will now have less women coming down from at least one cancer, cervical cancer. And that's a good thing for us. Hopefully one day we'll have something that can fight or eliminate breast cancer, which is the commonest cause of cancer in women. But for this one that we know the cause, the most common cause, and we have a solution to it, once we key in, we'll have healthier women in the Niger Delta.
Now, how can we take advantage of this drive in the Niger Delta region?
It's very simple. We have started the campaign. We had a 5 days extensive school-based, house-to-house, community-to-community campaign. That phase is over. We have now put the vaccine in our health centers. When we were on the field with the campaign, we saw a lot of fear. We saw a lot of denials. We saw a lot of rejections. We saw videos going out, rumors being peddled, misinformation being given. So much was in the space, the community, social media, radio, there was just a lot going on. And when people don't have trust or confidence in a thing, they would most likely not want to embrace it. The drive now is, can people of the Niger Delta, after hearing me and you converse, be convinced that this is a good thing for our young girls, a good thing for the boys, because as many girls as are protected will have a less likelihood to pass it on to a partner that is coming in the future. So it's a win-win for all of us. Let's embrace it. Let's welcome it. Let's accept it. Let's also promote it, so that in the next 10 years to come, we can beat our chest and say we did a good job 10 years ago when we started the campaign for HPV vaccine in the Niger Delta.
Now, you mentioned access to the vaccine in health centers, state-run or public health centers across the Niger Delta region here in Rivers State as well. Yes. Besides those centers, is the vaccine being administered elsewhere as well?
Like I said before, it's not a new vaccine, so you can access it in private facilities. Some people do community pharmacists, so you can access it in the community pharmacist shop. But the government is saying we want to purchase and give to our citizenry free of charge. These other places you go and get it from, you needed to pay some amount of money, to get the vaccine. So we're saying come to the health centers. Like any other vaccine, it is free, it is safe, and it is effective.
How about the home and schools? Are we administering the vaccines there as well?
When we had the campaign drive from the 27th to the 31st, we had sang about this campaign. Since February, we have been thinking about it. That drive has come and gone. So we will no longer be in your schools. We will no longer be in your houses. You have to make a conscious effort to leave your house with your 9-year-old daughter or with your 11-year-old daughter and come and look for us in the facility to get that child immunized. And it's a doable thing.
That's the 27th to the 31st of May.
Of May. We just rounded up the campaign.
Okay.
Yes.
So since then, that means you have to present at the hospital now.
You just have to present
at the health
center.
center.
Yes, to get vaccinated.
Okay. Now, you said earlier as well that usually or before now, of course, we have different kinds of vaccines that a newborn has to be given. We've got polio, we've got measles, right?
Yes.
We have a couple of others as well.
Yes.
But before now, the vaccination of newborns ends at
a year and 3 months.
Okay, and now it
will
ends,
now end at 9 years.
So that means that, but between a year and 3 months and 9 years, there's usually nothing in between.
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet.
Yes.
That's what I say, usually.
Yes.
So now it might be easy for a mother to remember to take her newborn or her 1-year-old baby or child to the health center to go get vaccinated, because even at a year and 3 months, it's pretty much still relatively close to when the child was given birth to. But Well, are we convinced that parents or mothers or parents, even fathers as well, will remember 9 years down the line that, oh, there's still this one other vaccine that we need to take our daughter to go get?
Yeah, so we still have a lot of work to do in terms of communication, in terms of our jingles, in terms of our public service announcements, in terms of health education, in terms of community engagement. We'll keep doing what we're doing now, going on air, being in every association meeting there is, to talk about it and keep reminding our parents that after giving a year and 3 months, there's one you have to give again at 9 years old. So don't forget. We'll keep doing these reminders maybe in the next 9-10 years. We just need to keep doing it so that it becomes part of you that after the child is 15 months, there's another one you need to take at 9 years. Mothers are good at remembering these dates, so we'll just keep pushing the information out to the public space so that everybody is aware that there's a vaccine that a child needs to take at 9 years. So we'll remember to tick the box when she's 8 years, and you can even tell that child when she's 5 or 6 that there's one you're supposed to take at 9 years. So when you get to 9 years, they're very excited. Children are excited when you tell them some things. Your birthday is so and so time. They will remind you, Mommy, you said my birthday is so and so time. So we'll tell her, when you're 9 years, there's one thing we need to give you. Just remind me. We can just play around with strategies like that.
You said mothers are good at remembering these things.
Mothers are good.
Fathers are not?
Fathers are top notch at remembering these things as well.
Okay, now while this drive does focus on ensuring that our young girls are vaccinated against HPV, and you've explained before now why that is the case, why the focus and emphasis is on young girls, should parents bother to ensure that their male children also get vaccinated? And if they should, how can they go about that?
Okay, so yes, there are some parents that can afford to purchase the vaccines in the private centers. So why not? Go ahead.
But what if parents decide to present their male children at the public health centers?
In the public health facilities, we have policies that we operate by. And the policy for now, it may change 6 months down the line. We may have the resources to have vaccines for both boys and girls 6 months down the line. We may have done so well as a country, and the people that donate vaccines to us will say, okay, fine, let's add to them and give them more vaccines so that they can cover for the boys and the girls. But for now, the policy in the health center is give only to the girls 9 to 14 years. So it's unlikely that a mother will go with her son to the health center and get vaccinated for HPV. No.
Now, which vaccine specifically are we using in this drive?
The name of the vaccine is Gardasil 4. Gardasil 4 protects against 4 different strains of the virus. The one that causes cervical cancer, 16 and 18, and the one that causes genital warts, 6 and 11. So that's why it's Gardasil 4. So and it also has some cross protection against some other strains of the HPV virus. There are a lot of HPV virus, about 170 strains of the virus. Yeah.
Let's talk about a very important aspect of, I perceive it's a very important aspect of this conversation as well, and that's concerns and conspiracy theories about vaccines. We've always had them, they've always been with us. But I think conspiracy theories about vaccination generally came to a head-on with the COVID-19 situation we have that ravaged the entire world, literally. And since then, it's been one conspiracy theory after another regarding vaccines. And now we have another vaccination drive. We've had several in the past, and I suspect we will still have more in the future going forward, as they're very important. Let's talk about that. Conspiracy theories, how is it what are your thoughts, professional thoughts on conspiracy theories about vaccines generally? We'll discuss in some more detail later, but let's start with that.
Okay, so like I had mentioned earlier, we had a lot of difficulties. Even some states suffered a lot of drawbacks with the campaign because of conspiracy theories. For me, is misconceptions. You are not rightly informed about how vaccines work, what they do, and then somebody peddles an idea of you give a child or an adult a vaccine, the person becomes sterile or infertile, or we are encouraging young people to become promiscuous. That's why we want to cover them with vaccines. No, If you understand how vaccines work, I had mentioned how they work to create immunity in the human body. It is only sensible not to fall ill from an illness to get immunity. You may likely die in the process of recovering, and then at that point in time, what uses the immunity to you? And we are saying that we don't want anybody to die from illnesses. Leave science to do what science does. Science is dynamic, developing every day. What we do, we take parts of the organism, we modify it in such a way that it does not cause obvious illness in the human body, but the body can recognize and respond as it ought to. So for those people peddling the conspiracy theories, they generate a lot of fear and cause a lot of mistrust. People had that mistrust for COVID vaccines. I took the COVID vaccine. We were told that in 4 years' time, Abi will die. And this is 2024. I don't think we have particularly died, though the year has not come to an end. And we have been functioning well. Some persons will tell you they've had less respiratory illnesses after COVID vaccine, So it means that there's a plus somewhere for taking the vaccines. Some persons will tell you we are healthier after taking the COVID vaccine. It means there's a plus somewhere. So we should give some trust to the persons in whose hands we have left research and science to. Everybody is not a scientist, Everybody is not a researcher. There are people whose work day in, day out is to be in that lab, ensure that they do the right composition and bring out the right vaccine, so that when it goes to the human body, it does what it's supposed to do for the human body. So let's try and debunk and demystify and have more confidence in what science does.
Oh, I took the COVID vaccine as well, and I feel very good.
Congratulations.
Where do you think this stems from? What do you think motivates persons or makes them hold on to and believe these, what I have termed conspiracy theories, of course, which is misinformation, fear-mongering? What is at the root of it? People
like clouds, On social media, you trend better when you are saying something that provokes drama. So they just go on. So they don't even know what they are. You don't have an understanding of what you are saying. You just go there. So far, you're sounding very elaborate. You are sounding very eloquent. You can draw attention. You have clouds.
And some of them aren't actually eloquent.
And some of them just just go on there and just talk and talk, and without considering the effect of what they are saying on some persons who don't have the understanding of this basic science. So for me, it's just clouds. Yeah, for me, it's just clouds.
Now, since this initiative started countrywide and especially here in the Niger Delta region, and your work is focused here in the Niger Delta and Rivers especially, what's been your experience? What's been the reception like?
Okay, so for Rivers State, as at the time we finished the campaign, which was Tuesday this week, we are at 87% coverage. So what that means is that we have reached 87% of the girls we want to get vaccinated. It's not a bad number, but our target is at least 90 or above 90. In some states, they have done well as well. Some states have hit 90%, above 90. Some states are still struggling with below 60%. So thereabouts, we started talking about this HPV early in River State. So we had a lot of acceptance, we had a lot of understanding. We were able to engage relevant bodies like Education, Ministry of Education, because it was a school-based campaign. We were able to engage churches, mosques, traditional rulers. We had a lot of grassroots work going on. So people had an understanding of where we are coming from with the vaccine. So we had a good reception, and thereabout translated to our coverage of above 80% in this.
So, Doc, with the HPV vaccination drive sweeping through the country and the Niger Delta region as well, with your work in this, have you faced any resistance to the vaccination drive?
Yes, we did. During our campaign, there were schools that refused our teams to access the girls in the schools. The excuse was they didn't have parental consent. The excuse was parents were not aware. The excuse was they heard a lot of rumors online about the vaccine, and so they were afraid for our teams to come in and administer. The excuse was what are the likely side effects. They didn't want the girls to have side effects in the schools, since there were a lot of private schools that were engaged and involved. So the fear was, I'm running a private business, the girls are in my custody, I don't want anything to happen to them. So we did have some resistance with some schools. We were able to talk our way through some. We didn't succeed with some. We are hoping that before the month ends, some of them will have the sense to look again into what we brought to the table, and maybe we can get a team or two to go to that school or those schools and then vaccinate again. So if any of them is hearing me, we are still open to your invitation. If you refuse our teams before now, when the campaign was on 27th to 31st, if you refuse our teams, please have confidence in the vaccine. Call us back. We'll come back and vaccinate girls in the school. It's better to get them in a group than to get them house to house. So yes, we had the resistance.
Now, particularly, what are some of the myths with the HPV vaccine?
The very first one was infertility. We are trying to get girls vaccinated so that we cause them to be infertile in the future. The second one was promiscuity. We want to cause these girls in this age group who have not known sex to think sex is okay to have, and because we have vaccinated them, they can go ahead and start having sex. The third one was other side effects, that could come up in the girls, other serious side effects that could come up in the girls. The fear was there could be something more beyond the needle prick and the pain and swelling at the sites of the injection. There could be something else that can happen to that girl after getting the vaccine, So we had a lot of them. There was one doctor in quote that came and completely told us that vaccine should not be given to young girls but be given to older women, because the women are the ones that are more likely to come down with cancer. We agree with him that you come down with cancer at 50, but you become exposed to the virus at 19, at 20. So he didn't quite get his science right. So we had those kind of rumors being peddled around.
Is there any plan in place to sustain this drive, or are we just running this campaign now and giving the vaccine just for some months or a short period, and then it ends there?
No, excellent. So there's what we call routinization. Routinization means it has become part of the routine immunization of the public facilities run by government to always have HPV vaccine in their stock. So after this whole 27th to 31st that all the states have launched this vaccine in their public health facility, any girl going forward can walk into the facility 9 years to 14 years till the end of this year, and after this year, 9 years only, walk into the facility, get vaccinated. It will always be in stock. It will most likely always be in stock.
Does the girl have to be accompanied by an adult to get vaccinated?
Not necessarily. A girl can walk into, these teenagers they have started taking decisions for themselves when they get to 11, 12, 14, 15. So that girl can walk into a facility even unaccompanied by her mother or guardian and request for HPV vaccine, and she'll be given. Yes.
Now, besides the HPV vaccine, which is obviously, a fantastic initiative and drive, are there other plans? You're with the River State Health Board.
Yes.
So are there other plans to, and not just are you aware as to what's happening health plan-wise for River State or the Niger Delta? Even this is also a nationally coordinated initiative.
Yes.
Are there other plans for as far as vaccines are concerned in the future?
Okay, I'd like to say malaria vaccine is coming. Yeah, so that's the one that is right now in the pipeline. Some countries have actually commenced, and have started giving. Nigeria, I don't know when, but we'll soon put malaria vaccine as part of vaccines that individuals in the country should access and take. That's the only one to my knowledge I know that's close by.
Mm.
But yes, there are other things that will come up in the near future because everyday illnesses are popping up. Science is dynamic, like I said. People are discovering things, and we want to keep our world healthy by keeping ourselves healthy.
We have to wrap this up shortly. So, any final words to especially to parents and guardians in the Niger Delta and even beyond watching this as far as the HPV vaccine is concerned?
Yes, I want to thank every parent, every guardian, every custodian of a child that keyed into the initiative of Nigeria to protect our girls 9 to 14 years by giving the vaccine. I want to thank us very well. We did tremendously well as a country. We can do more, however, knowing that the vaccines will be in the health centers. Let's make the efforts to take the girls to the facility or point the girls to the facility so they can access the vaccines. They are free, they are safe, they're effective, and together we can protect the future of every girl, child in Nigeria and in the Niger Delta.
Dr. Babu, thank you very much for coming on the show and for your time.
Thank you, sir.
And that's where we wrap it up for this edition of Canvas, the Niger Delta Roundtable. We have talked about guaranteeing our future, especially the future of our young girls. And when we guarantee the future of our young girls, we invariably guarantee all our future for that matter. And guaranteeing this ensures that we're able to protect them from illnesses, especially as discussed on today's edition, cervical cancer, which is brought on by HPV. As a vaccine out there, parents, guardians, please get your daughter or your ward ages 9 to 14 vaccinated. If you're above that age, please ensure that you also get tested as well so you can get early treatment just in case. And if your test comes back negative, so you can get vaccinated against HPV and consequently against cervical cancer. Thank you very much once again. The program was brought to you by the operator of the NNPC, SPDC, Total Energies Active Joint Venture, the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria Limited, headquartered here in Port Harcourt. I'm Adedayo Ilushakin. Do have yourselves a wonderful day and do stay healthy.